Coming to you from Austin, Texas on this incredibly mild day, it's Color Commentary. We are Adrian Guarzales.
And Michael Petchek. And Color Commentary this week, brought to you by Tamago Gohan. It's just a raw egg. Eat it, you dummy.
Mike and I have been big into Tamago Gohan lately, which is rice with a raw egg in it, and then you sort of add whatever fixings you want.
Yeah, it's a comfort food. Do you want to do a quick F&M recap before we dive in? For those who missed it, we are doing a mailbag episode this week.
Yeah, sure. I went 2-1 with Pig Trinket. I lost to Delver, which, I don't know. I played against Aaron, who's an incredible Delver player, so, he's just really, really, really good. But I generally do think that that's a pretty favorable matchup.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get them past turn probably like 5 or 6, I think, is the point where you start pulling ahead.
And then I played a beautiful Control v Control matchup round 3, which ended up going way, way overtime. And since we were the only two still playing and it was the last round, and you can sort of collect your prizes whenever you're done at Pat's, we played it out, and it was a lot of fun. I really love the really grindy Control matchups. They're very relaxing for me.
Yeah, and I mean, you beat Teachings, which is generally kind of a harder matchup for that deck.
Yeah. So he took game 1 with Capsize Lock. Game 2, I'm like, all right, taking out every single piece of removal. In game 2, he had Gurmag Angler. And I was like, oh, yeah, right, they can do that. But I still managed to pull ahead on that one because, the ground game is so strong in Pig. And we were discussing some different, Power T, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, man, but we were talking about maybe doing some card swaps in the deck, which we can go over at some point. But yeah, go ahead and talk about your F&M. Sorry.
I played for the Forbidden Alchemy deck again. I did terribly. I got paired up against combo decks all night, and it's not super easy to interact with them unless you got the counterspell and then the other counterspell. To clarify, one of them was elves. So,
okay. I was like, I knew one of them was Freed combo.
Yeah, I got to play against Freed combo, which, if they don't hit the Giga Drowse early, is pretty good.
I looked over and you had 2 swamps and he Giga Drowse both swamps, and you were like, all right, that's it. I was like, no.
Game 1 of that match, I got stuck on 2 swamps. I kept like a kind of greedy hand, and I was like, he doesn't go off until turn 4 or so. So yeah, I should be fine here, right? And no, I wasn't.
Faux show.
Just bricked on land to like turn 6 or 7, I think. But yeah, this week we went online in various places. We asked for questions to do kind of a mailbag episode, and I kind of said, whatever you want to know about, we will answer, as long as it's a question we're comfortable with and all that stuff.
Mailbags are super fun. We've been trying to do ours for a couple of weeks now. I'm excited to get to these questions. Really, and Mike has touched on it before. It's because we produce this hour show every week, but in reality, we are incredibly lazy. And so when you submit questions, you do the work for us. So thank you, everyone.
I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little excited to not have to really prepare show notes this week.
Right.
Or find a new deck that seemed interesting. Also, this lets us ride out the last week of Drake being legal and not having to really touch upon a meta that's going to be very, very quickly irrelevant.
So I think the format, Mike, if you don't mind me prefacing here, is you're going to read the question, I'm going to answer it, and then you're going to answer it?
Yeah. Okay. So I've sorted these off into personal / non-magic related questions and then magic questions.
All right.
And we're gonna start off. We got a big old bundle here.
Let her rip
from user Tassinara on the Pauper Discord.
Thank you, Tass.
We're gonna start this one off easy. Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Yeah.
You're like, if you go to a restaurant and you're like, I want a Coke, and they're like, oh, we only have Pepsi. Is that okay? You just gotta be like, I don't know. Is Monopoly money okay?
I definitely agree on that one. I am definitely a Coke person. I don't know. Pepsi's just it tastes weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Also from Tassinara, favorite subjects at school.
I'm assuming all school.
Yeah.
I will discount kindergarten for this purpose. Probably my theater classes. They're the only classes I got A's in college.
Well, I mean, so in high school, I would definitely have answered sciences and maths. And then in college, I majored in graphic design. So in those classes, in college, it was like web design stuff. So again, the more like technical, science-y oriented end of the spectrum. Then most hated subject in school.
My most hated subject was probably the science technical portion of things. In all seriousness, I was not very good at math. I remember in high school, I had to go in for an additional hour every morning for tutoring for my math classes, as well as in college. I actually dropped out of non-major statistics. And then I ended up my math credit ended up being intro to computer science for non-majors. And I just ended up piggybacking off of my partner, like basically every project. So really for me, it's math. I'm, and a lot of people say like, oh, like you're only as good at math as you think. It just really doesn't it might as well be another language. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, if it makes you feel better, my answer is English, because I could not read as a kid very well. It took me a long time to get the hang of reading stuff, and I'm still not super good at it.
Trade-off. This is why Mike and I are yin and yang. I made like, I don't really remember how SAT scores work. I made almost an 800 on both of my English and comprehension in the SAT, and I made like a 500 in math. Like just absolutely abysmal in math. It brought down my whole score so much.
I want to say I got like a 780 on the math portion, and then like a 5 and 600
for our international friends. The SAT is based off of 800 points for each section. So a 500 or a 6 whatever is actually really, really terrible.
Yeah. All right. Next, favorite food. Now this one's tricky because it's one thing. You just get one.
I got a lot of favorite food, but I tell people for me it's French fries. I could eat French fries till I explode.
I did not know that, and I wouldn't have guessed it. Favorite food in the world? Crap, I didn't think about this before we went live.
It's okay. What about Tamago Gohan? Our episode's brought to you by it.
I mean, that's like my go-to snack food, but like, I'm trying to think of like what a comfort meal is for me that I would like go to like a last meal kind of deal. I don't know. I kind of want to say like really good, like high quality ramen is pretty much my jam. Like a nice hearty soup with big noodles in it. That's
like udon noodles.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. And I mean, I've cooked for you and your girlfriend. Like I'm a pretty decent cook, so I like food. Like,
we've also been to a couple ramen restaurants together.
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
All right, most hated food.
Actually, this is really easy for me. It's apples.
Really?
I despise them.
Is it the texture?
It's the texture, and I hate that crunch. Everyone loves that crunch. God, it's nails on a chalkboard for me. I hate it.
Oh man. So mine is also a sensory issue. I hate, humorously, I hate plain cooked eggs.
Right. It's the smell, right?
They smell exactly like sulfur, and it registers as not food to my brain, which is funny because I like fried rice. I like omelets, actually. I like...
but like boiled eggs? Can't do it?
No. I will leave the room if if my wife makes eggs for herself. Like,
this is also the reason Mike can't go to Iceland, coincidentally.
Yeah.
We were talking about that the other day.
Lots of hot springs. Here's one for me. Someone asked. This was Hex in the Discord who pointed out that I've mentioned several times that I didn't watch a lot of TV growing up, and he wanted to know why. And it's because my parents are super, super overprotective to this day. Like, my mother still calls me weekly to check in and make sure I haven't died, but they were not huge fans of me being kind of babysat by a television. So growing up, I had The Muppets, Sesame Street, Bill Nye, like firmly educational stuff. And pretty much as soon as I got to college, I started binging movies. And at this point, I have seen, God, what was it? I checked it the other day. I've seen something like 1,300 films over the course of my life, and most of them I've seen in the past, like...
6 years.
Oh God, no!
8?
It's actually 8.
Okay, yeah, we're older than we think we are.
Yeah, I keep getting reminded about that. But
my mom really held on to Pokemon. That was my big holdout as a kid. Is my mom wouldn't buy me anything Pokemon related for a long time.
Really, because my dad was super. My dad actually does a lot of gaming stuff, and he had Pokemon before we did.
That's funny.
Yeah, he got Pokemon Blue and he loved that game. I think the actual cartridge is still somewhere at my house, and I'm sure I could open it up today and like find out what my dad was meaning.
The problem is a lot of those cartridges use a battery system for saves, and the battery dies is the only thing I would look out for.
All right, moving on. From Joby on the Discord, what do each of you do for a living, and how did you get into that job?
All right, I work for a financial technology company here in Austin. We sell basically different types of accounts, and we service community institutions specifically. The idea being that if everyone has Kasasa, which is my company's name, also checking products, they'll be able to build a brand that can take on mega banks. I got that job because I play Magic.
Did you really?
Yeah. My friend who works at the company was in my old game group at 10th Planet when they were still around. And he knew I was looking to leave my old job, which was the CSR. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, you should apply. And so I applied. And yeah, I got that job recommendation because I play Magic.
And you basically kind of do IT and sales, right?
No, I do. I'm trying to say my job title is an engineer, which kills my dad, who's actually an engineer. Basically, I install websites for banks, and then I train them on how to use them because we use a particular application for account opening.
Yeah. So I work as a web designer and developer, mostly front end stuff. As I mentioned before, I went to school for graphic design. When I was in high school, though, it was middle school. I started learning how to program for the web. My dad is a computer engineer. He works for a large company, which I'm not going to say the name of because reasons.
I said my company's name because it rocks.
Oh no! I'm just not. I'm not violating my own dad's privacy.
For sure.
But I grew up around computers. Like we had the internet when I was super young. I still remember what the old SCG website looks like. If anyone wants to check that out, I think it's on archive.org. It's really funny. It's bad. But anyway, I went to school for graphic design. Towards the end of college, I realized, man, there are not a lot of jobs in this field. And I was like, but I know how to program stuff. So I got an internship my last semester there, and that turned into a job, and now I do it freelance. And
nice.
Yeah, that's what it is. And freelance is nice. I'm my own boss.
So if you need anything done, you know who to contact, colorcommentary@gmail.com. I'll see it too, but Mike will see it. So that's what's important.
All right. We're going to move on to the actual Magic-related questions.
All right. Easy stuff's out of the way.
Yeah, the easy stuff's out of the way. First one from Dylan's on via email, and then Peter Morgan asked basically the same question via Twitter. What cards would you like to see downshifted to common? What is missing from pauper that you want in the format? This could be a card that exists at a higher rarity or a new card. So let's tackle the first one. What's the card you want downshifted to common?
Oh man, I never really think about this. I'm gonna say Signal Pest. I think it'd be super broken.
Oh.
It'd make aggro decks a lot better
Really
just
good.
overall. Yeah, I don't know. That's the first card that sort of popped in my mind. As far as what's missing from the format, really the problem is there's no way to get a combo in the format and keep it fair because we lack a lot of the like prison style mechanics. So maybe something like that. Maybe like a not necessarily Thorn of Amethyst or Sphere of Resistance, but something in that vein that just taxes mana.
Yeah, some sort of taxing effect like you'd see in Death and Taxes, or it's called Hate Bears in Modern, right?
Yeah, because those are the cards that make combo keep combo in check, and then combo is allowed to be good because those cards exist.
What I want downshifted to common, actually the one that hit me a while ago was Dismiss, 2 and 2 blue counterspell draw card.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good also.
Because we have Contradict, which is 1 more mana, but that 1 more mana is light years of difference in quality.
We also now have the 4 mana loot or a loot spell from Kaladesh. So I mean, you sort of have that, but you do have to draw and then discard.
But that's that would be my go-to. My unreasonable one is Astral Slide. If no one remembers Onslaught Block, this was a big card. It basically, whenever a player cycles a card, you get to exile a non-land permanent, I think it is.
Yeah.
Until end of turn, and then it comes back to play.
Yeah, the card is Well, I mean, it wasn't the win condition. The win condition in that deck was Flame Rift, right?
Not Flame Rift, Lightning Rift.
Yeah, that's a Lightning Rift, which does deal 2 damage every time you do that.
But that one you also have to pay mana for.
Right, but but like Astral Slide like basically kept them off things, and then that card sealed the deal.
Specifically, what I'd want to do with this is play it with green and play Tilling Treefolk and Cycling Lands.
That does seem pretty good.
I don't know what the win con would be, but I want to try it.
It's a powerful and unique effect.
Exactly, and it's an engine card, which would kind of create a new archetype. And it doesn't do like the quick flicker that we now get. It does the slow till end of turn flicker.
Right, so you couldn't do a combo with it. It's like a utility thing more than a combo.
Yeah,
thing.
I mean it's a grindy value engine.
Right.
Next question from Dylan's on again. Do you think Pauper is a naturally quote unquote doomed format because Wizards can't directly make money from it?
Absolutely not. People have been saying that about Legacy and Vintage for years, and those formats are still around. And granted, there's less support for them, but my opinion is that as long as people want to play this format, and as long as you have a store to play it at, the format won't die. Like Legacy and Vintage, like even though they have much larger card pools, aren't really quote unquote competitive formats. There's no Vintage GP, and the Legacy ones, there's only like 2 or 3 of them a year. No one is grinding Legacy to try and make the Pro Tour, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very unfair. Just because Pauper is commons only, to just say it's a non-competitive format, because these other 2 extremely powerful formats, I would argue, are also non-competitive. So in short, no, I don't think Pauper is an inherently doomed format. I think as long as people play the format and as long as you can play it at an LGS, it's good. And it's on Moto, it's an official format. You just can't play it in paper officially.
I think the big thing is like they just kind of let it do its own thing on Moto and ban as necessary.
Well, and they banned Drake, like clearly they care. This is probably a kind of an older question. Maybe before Drake got banned even.
It was a little bit of an older question. I think one of the interesting things is
it's a good question.
Another way to think about this question is, do you think it's always doomed to kind of be this thing where, it's Moto and a couple LGSs?
That is a much harder answer. Wizards has said they're not going to bridge the gap, but now they have to deal with that in Legacy because there are cards from the latest Conspiracy set that are doing well in Legacy tournaments that you cannot play on Moto. So they're going to have to address it for both formats if they address it at all.
Yeah, we're in this weird spot of like WotC designing stuff that they can't really distribute well online.
And that's been a problem for Legacy since like the first Conspiracy set. They just got lucky because a lot of the cards in there weren't really Legacy playable.
And the ones that showed up online.
Exactly.
Like it's Council's Judgment. And
yeah.
Then like
there's I can't really think of the rest of them, but yeah, Council's Judgment definitely won, but it got put into an online set. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were all in VMA. That's what it was.
Yeah. So they did. So that's how they solved that problem. And maybe they want to do a Pauper style VMA because the only requirement for the card is that it was printed as a common once. You could easily make a set of all commons and then assign them different rarity levels. You know what I mean? Like
I've always been suspect of that idea. I'm not a fan.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably a conversation we should have at some point.
Yeah. No, that's good. We can put a pin in that one.
I didn't realize that you thought of that.
So
that thought literally just came to me.
That it's been passed around a couple times, and I think at the end of the day, one of the big issues is just the fact that it's going to require money and R&D time. And
right. I'm just this is my wouldn't it be nice?
Oh yeah, definitely.
This is not, yeah. But to answer the question, I don't think it's doomed. I just think it's just going to take some time. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, next one, another from Dylan. What would you do to make Pauper a format in paper? What card legality would you use and which ban list? All right, so let me just flesh this one out. You get to wave a magic wand, and this becomes the standard. Like let's say it gets like at FNM it becomes an actual format, not just casual, and it's got full sanctioning. Which ban list would you prefer to use, and which card pool?
I would advocate gatherer legal because that's a term that people love for some reason, and I would advocate the ban list from Card Kingdom because I think that's the fairest ban list that blocks out the most powerful cards.
Sure. I'm gonna actually take the opposite stance on this. I think that setup works well for us on a small scale. I think if this was a, situation where it just becomes an officially sanctioned format in paper, I would go with the MitGo legality and the MitGo ban list.
But then I see what you mean. Okay. But so that's sort of 6 dozen of one, half dozen of another, because your idea then precludes the fact that Hidden the Torok and those cards are not in the format at all.
Yes.
Okay. And that's fine then. I'm okay with that.
I just think that way, obviously the better Moto can do at replicating real Magic, I think that's just better for the format as a whole.
Yeah. Okay. I'm inclined to agree with you. And I would say that that's only semantics, but I don't think it is actually. There is a difference between a card not being in a format and a card being on a ban list.
Yeah.
I'm more open to that. I think where you just go ahead and nix any idea of that card even being in the format.
Yeah. I think locally it works fine as long as it's not a sanctioned format, because we do use the combined pool and we use a custom in-house ban list. We should probably talk to someone about swapping over to the Card Kingdom one.
Right. I know that's been on the table for a little bit. No one even plays goblins, so
yeah.
Because we do not have Goblin Grenade actually banned, just no one's playing goblins.
Yeah. All right. Here's one from Tyler Watts via our Facebook page. What are 4 deck archetypes that can be played against each other and that lead to interesting matches and represent the format well? So like if someone was making a 4-deck battle box to show off the format, which 4 decks would you put in
it? Delver.
Okay, Delver.
Mono Black Control.
Mono Black Control.
Affinity. And no, wait, not Affinity. Maybe. I don't know. I want to put Stompy and Teachings in there. I want 5 decks.
Okay.
Because we got a mid-range deck. We got an aggro control deck. We've got Affinity, and then we got an aggro deck, and then we have a real control deck.
All right, I'm gonna hit you with something. I don't think Teachings should go into a introduce people to the format kind of deal.
But then, what's your control deck?
I don't think you have one.
I guess Mono Black sort of fills that role.
Yeah, because Mono Black is considered a control deck, even though it is kind of more mid-rangey a lot of the time in its current iteration with Grey Merchant. My 4 would be Delver, Stompy, Mono Black Control, and Tron.
Okay, yeah, big mana deck.
A big mana kind of combo-y, kind of controlling it sometimes, like Teamer Tron.
Okay.
I feel like that would be a good starting point to introduce people to some of the stuff you can do in the format.
I feel like a lot of times when I play Affinity against new players, they're like, that deck's so unfair. How does anyone ever win?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, Gorilla Shaman.
Well, the format has the best hate cards against me specifically and only me.
Yeah, okay. Affinity is kind of a feel bad against sometimes. I can see that.
Yeah, I feel like those are 4 decks that do pretty fair things and just try and follow a pretty simple game plan. Like Stompy doesn't have like a lot of kind of minutia to it. It's just kind of like green dudes, pump spells, beat face.
Right.
And Delver has some subtlety to it. I'm not gonna detract from that, but it's also not it's not Teachings where you're like, okay, someone cast Teachings for the first time, looking through a deck they've never seen.
Right. Okay.
What
I
did they
see
get?
that. And then Delver's like aggro control style deck, stick a threat, protect it.
And Mono Black Control is pretty easy to figure out.
Kill things and play creatures.
All right. Next one. From Tassanar from the Discord. Most people quit. Oh wait, sorry, no, I can't read.
Why are you doing this?
This one is from Brandon on Twitter. Most people quit Magic at some point. Have either of y'all taken a break from the game, and what sparked it?
I have absolutely taken breaks from Magic before. Never quit playing it outright. More just I'm sort of in one of my break periods now, actually, where I'm not really playing a lot. Specifically what triggered me this time, I think, is Drake. But sometimes it's just like, I don't know. You just got a lot of other stuff to do.
I was going to say, sometimes you just have other things in life.
Yeah. Or like you can't really make the commitments. Or like in my case with my previous YouTube channel, I wasn't able to make the time commitment,
Yeah. So I actually took a really long break from Dark Steel all the way to, I came back when Born of the Gods had just come out. And it was kind of one of those things where, oh no, wait. Sorry. I came back when Avacyn Restored had actually just come out. I played for a couple of months, really, was fond of it and loved how much I'd missed it and all that stuff. And then I stopped playing, came here to Austin, and then I started playing again around Born of the Gods, I want to say. And then I've kept playing ever since, and that was kind of when I found Pauper and the formats that I love.
Yeah. Something that's interesting about that, when you can sort of define your life around what set was the most recent at the time. Like I was just thinking, oh yeah, what was I doing during Avacyn Restored? Or like, oh, what was I doing during Born of the Gods?
Yeah. Although it hit me the other day that like Born of the Gods was like several years ago, and it feels very recent still.
Yeah. I mean, there have been 3 blocks.
There's been a new card frame since then.
Yeah. Born of the Gods was a long time ago. Devotion decks were a thing.
Devotion decks were a thing.
The best deck was mono black with Grey Merchant.
Yeah.
Some things don't change.
And it's funny because I left the game during Darksteel, and part of that was the meta was terrible. Affinity was very dominant to the point of absurdity. And also I was like, I'm 12 or 13. I don't need to play Magic anymore. I'm cooler than that. And then
nerd.
Well, yeah. Now 26-year-old me is just like, man, I was dumb.
Man, I missed out on Snapcaster Mage and Fetch Lands.
You know what I actually missed out on? Sensei's Divining Tops. One more block. Those were an uncommon. True. All right. Next question. Tassanara via the Discord. What was the first Pauper deck you ever played?
Affinity.
And the crowd is unimpressed and unsurprised.
Well, because I had Modern Affinity, and I had, and I was like, oh, it's a deck archetype I already know. So, Affinity.
When I actually first got into Pauper, I got in via Mono Black. I am a control player by heart. Grey Merchant was new, and it seemed really powerful.
Shocker.
Yeah.
It was.
Still is powerful, and I was just like, this seems like a good fit. I've talked about it before on the show. Prior to getting into Pauper, I played Peasant online, and I played their Mono Black version.
Who did you play Peasant with?
People in France and Germany.
In like tournaments, or just like because there's not a filter for that on Moto.
Oh, on Cockatrice.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I actually do not do much Moto, even though I've had it installed for a while. Like I partitioned off a chunk of my hard drive for Windows, and I still don't play Pauper that much online. But yeah, Mono Black was my entryway, and now I just play janky control and weird stuff. All right, next on the list. How did you start playing Magic? Again, from Tassanara.
My dad brought home Portal for me and my brother, because Portal came in the starter pack was 2 decks.
Yeah.
And me and my brother would spend hours playing Portal.
What colors were the decks, out of curiosity?
One was white and green, and the other was red and black, I want to say. I'm pretty sure that was what it was.
Well, I actually remember this vividly because it's a weird story. The first time I ever played Magic was on a houseboat.
All right. Why were you on a houseboat?
One of my friends, his dad had a houseboat. I was 9, and I was hanging out with my friend after school on his dad's houseboat, and we had both played the Pokemon card game.
Yeah, that's what I played mostly when I was a kid.
Yeah, and he pulled this out, and he was like, he had the starter 99 set.
Ooh, with rocks.
So, fun fact, the starters for that set, blue and red, sorry. There's a blue deck and a red deck.
Oh, I thought rocks was the promo.
It was.
Oh, but that's a green card. Yeah. Oh, I'm starting to see this twist here. Okay,
yeah,
keep going.
Yeah. But he gave me the blue deck from it. And
with Visidrix in it.
Yeah, with Visidrix.
Because I had those decks too.
Because there's Visidrix, and then there's Trained Org in the other one.
Yeah,
they're both 6/6s for 7.
Yeah, they're both really terrible cards.
But Visidrix is a terrifying shaved bunny rabbit.
Yeah, it's awful.
But so I played for the first time on this little houseboat, and I was just hooked. And I remember specifically, like super vividly, like the gaming magazines back in the day.
Duelist.
I remember Top Deck, which was Wizards' actual like official magazine, and it was a weird magazine because it had two fronts to it. Half of the magazine read one way, and we got halfway through it, you had to flip it over and read from the other side.
All right.
It was weird. It was,
all right.
it certainly was, but it had like articles from Mark Rosewater. I remember articles from like John Finkel and stuff like that. And it was super cool at the time.
Print media so archaic though.
Yeah. I've actually seen a couple of the old issues of Top Deck up on eBay, and I was considering like grabbing one just to see.
Well, they used to have dope promos in them and like wacky cards and tokens, and they had some cool stuff.
Top Deck, the issue was always though that it was all of Wizards brands, and this was back when Wizards had a bunch of card games. So sometimes it was like a Pokemon promo, sometimes it was a Magic promo. At the time, they were publishing Legend of the Five Rings. Like it was all over the place in terms of like what you got. I think there was one with Doomtown. The card game.
Yeah, the first version. Because now I think Fantasy Flight does Doomtown, if I'm not mistaken.
AEG did it, and they just killed it.
Oh, that's sad.
But yeah, there's my little trip down nostalgia lane. I also remember spoilers coming out because everyone had 56K modems. When the full spoiler hit, it was in a text file.
Oh my dear sweet God!
like unformatted RTF file. No, not RTFs. TXT files. It was terrible.
I'm over that. I'm glad that we have the way things are now are better.
Oh yeah. All right. Next on the list. This is the one. This is the one that I thought about long and hard.
Okay. Hit me with it.
All right. This is from Joby on the Discord.
I think you just say it Job.
Job?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess Job is Job. I don't know. Keep going.
If you and Adrian were legendary creatures with partner, what would your Oracle text be? Now, partner is this new thing that they introduced in Commander 2016, like literally a couple days ago, where you can have two commanders and they partner up and they both count as your combined commander color identity, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to start this one off. I figured it out.
Go ahead.
2 blue and a black, 1/4 legendary, doesn't really matter what, human, I guess, artificer. Whenever a creature dies, gain 3 life. 4 and a black, return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. So literally just pig drink it on a card, like all together.
Then will the last one be sacrifice, put a -1/-1 counter on a creature? But then why can't you just play Pith Driller in this deck then?
You could. But the point is, blue black does the things I like. 1/4 because that's a reasonable body. So what would yours be?
Well, now that you put so much thought into it, originally I was just gonna make a joke about being a 1/1 with affinity for mics, but now I kind of want to do a little bit more thought into it. I think I would be let's go ahead and call it. That'll be a colorless.
Okay.
Colorless 5-drop.
Okay.
Robot Adrian. Affinity for artifacts. My stats wouldn't be that great. Maybe I'm a 2/3.
Okay.
But I would have I would do some stuff. Help.
You know what? What about?
I was gonna say just give me ATOG's ability, but that's so cheap.
What about I don't know, like the first artifact you cast each turn has affinity for artifacts?
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sure.
I mean,
and then I have ATOG's ability.
Just the eating part.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm cool with that. That actually seems like a kind of neat design.
Okay, we got there. We got there, everyone.
We got there.
Thank you. You've been a wonderful audience.
So yeah, if someone wants to, throw together a blue black blue black colorless commander
artifact
deck
themed
with a heavy artifact theme.
I mean, this is a Tezzeret deck waiting to happen. Honestly,
it is.
This is Thopter Sword combo land. Okay, I guess I'll be
Thopter Sword is
I
actually.
I guess I'll be a white creature.
There we go.
Just so you can play Thopter Sword in your deck.
My favorite. That was one of the first things I discovered when I came back to Magic. The most recent time was Thopter Sword, and I actually stockpiled a bunch of them and made a pile of money when they spiked.
Yeah.
I felt good about that. I still have my playset though.
Rip your peasant. Oh, okay.
I have a playset because I'm still slowly working on a legacy deck.
You and me both, brother. I'm at the part of the legacy deck where it's like, oh, I only need 7 more cards. Oh wait, they all cost over $50.
Yeah. Get into that point. Although you got your City of Traders, so
yeah.
Next on the list. This is by another one where I'm gonna mispronounce it. I want to say Borge, Borge.
Sure, Borge.
User on the Discord.
Borge.
What can you do to create a better play group and bring people into the format?
I think a big part of it is that you need to have decks for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
My people who play Magic will generally choose playing Magic over not playing Magic, no matter what they're playing, in my experience. So if you have the decks, people will want to play. But the best thing you can do is, grab a buddy, head over to a local game store and just jam a few games, and people are going to come and watch you. People want to know what's going on. People want to see what's happening. Inevitably, will be like, what is this format you're playing? Because a lot of people, don't play Pauper or have never seen it before. And you'll say, oh, it's Pauper. It's a commons only format. Would you like to play with us? And that's sort of how I would recommend getting a group together. Is just you already have a group, and then you invite people to play with you, and then eventually you can take it to your LGS. Be like, hey, I have 8 people. Will you sanction a tournament for us?
Exactly. I think another thing is also like having, like, in terms of better play group, having open communication with people, because it's like any friend group. Like, if you don't tell someone that they're not being cool to hang around with, they're never gonna know.
And we have the luxury of a very open play group at Pat's. We generally discuss like basically every aspect of the match after we're done with the match, and we'll show each other what we sideboarded, and we'll talk about like different plays we made and why we made them.
I mean, a couple weeks ago there was a guy who showed up and actually plugged our podcast for us, and I was like right down the table from him, and he was like pointing out, and he's like, oh, that guy actually is one of the hosts on it, and he was like, you got to promo your own show, man. And I was like, I would, but all the people who come here every week already listen.
Yeah. Shout out to Johan. You're the man, Johan.
Yeah.
Where was he? He wasn't there. Where were you, Johan?
Yeah.
Call us.
Where were you? But yeah, just like having decks ready, and especially ones that are easy to understand, even if it's within the context of something else. Like, okay, this is Mono Blue Delver. It plays like a tempo blue deck. Stuff that's easy to like get across to people and like still powerful.
And so another good thing about Pauper is a lot of the archetypes are they're basically just common versions of existing archetypes. If you give someone a Delver deck, you're like, this is Delver, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, I know what's gonna happen. Or if you give someone an Elves deck, you're like, this is Elves, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna make a ton of mana and cheat out big dudes.
Yeah,
well, kind of if for Elves, but
sometimes they throw in the Ulamog's Crusher.
Yeah, and so a lot of the archetypes are already established Magic archetypes, so it is easy to sort of explain the decks. The only decks that I've really had difficulty explaining is Pig Trinket, because there's not really. I mean, there are analogs, but it's like a graveyard-based value deck, and people understand what that is.
Yeah,
so
they
don't understand all the choices.
Like that Tortured Existence is kind of a tricky one at times.
Yeah.
Because the best explanation I've heard of it is it's like Dredge, but not.
Yeah, it's like way worse.
Yeah, definitely like trying to make the format accessible, and also demonstrating that it's like a decently powerful format is one of the things I've found a lot of people miss at first glance.
Some people, even to this day, when I'm like, oh yeah, I played this card, and people are like, that's a common? You're like, yeah, because people don't care unless they have to actually check the rarity symbol, but people are often shocked at what has been printed at common over the years.
Yep. I mean, most of the elves that go into elves are playable in Legacy.
Pauper Elves is basically Legacy Elves minus like Craterhoof, Natural Order, and Wirewood Symbiote.
Yeah. Oh, and Gaia's Cradle.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the other big one.
So like those are, and I'm not saying those aren't important cards. They make the deck extremely competitive for Legacy, but at its core, the deck is still the same. You make a lot of dudes and then you attack.
Yeah. So definitely trying to like emphasize like this is still an interesting format where you get to do a bunch of cool stuff.
Right.
All right. Next on the list, this is from Lassereich on Twitter.
Kitchen Table MTG represent.
Yep. The best decks for newcomers to buy for themselves, considering prices, availability, and playability. And he does clarify post-Drake ban. It's White Weenie.
It's a monocolored deck. It's going to be either White Weenie, Goblins, Delver, Stompy, or Mono Black Control.
Let me think this through.
Because you don't need the oubliettes in Mono Black.
Yeah. Mono Black sans the oubliettes.
And that's a genuine time where I think that you can say, I'm choosing not to play this card, but I'm not just building a worse version of this deck by not buying this card.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of times where that's just the case, but Mono Black, you don't really need oubliette. People just play it because it's...
Now, would you also shave the chainers? Because those are still $5 a pop.
I would not shave the chainers. Okay. So maybe not that.
Okay, so in terms of availability of cards, Delver might be near the top because most of that deck is modern.
Yeah, most of those cards are not old. And the ones that are like Snap, which are super easy to find because no one else plays them.
Yeah. I would say like Delver's a possibility, the mono blue variant, because most of that's modern. Most of that is selling your if your store has a decent singles selection, they will probably have a good chunk of it. Mono Black, sans oubliettes, which shaves $50 off a deck.
Yeah. Goblins, extremely cheap. I think Bushwhackers might be $2, but that's it.
Bushwhackers are $2. Bolts are $2.
Yeah,
everything else is a quarter.
Right. The deck is super cheap and very easy to play.
Oh, sorry. The Fire Blasts are also like $1.
Okay.
But like, I want to say you could probably put Goblins together on TCG Player for like, what? Like
10,
20
$20. Okay. All right.
In paper.
Goblins is super duper cheap.
But yeah, so and I'd say probably Stompy if you discount price.
Yeah, Stompy's a little expensive because Nettle Sentinels are like $10 or something extreme. Like they're expensive.
They're like $250. The Quirion Rangers,
Moto maybe.
The Quirion Rangers are like $2. Some of the pump spells are like $1 a piece.
Freighters, those are dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Basically, if anyone is looking to get into the format, I would recommend a monocolored deck.
Yeah, those are definitely the ones that are easiest to play. You'll have the least frustration related to Mana Screw, and a lot of them are pretty cheap. If you want an absolute like base level, like I just need something cheap that is viable and will win sometimes.
White Weenie. Yeah.
Immediately. Like mono white aggro decks, the only card that goes in them that's expensive in paper is Journey to Nowhere.
Which is like $2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like apart from that, online they're a bit more because you usually have prismatic strands in the board.
Prismatic strands are super cheap in paper though.
In paper,
and,
yeah.
And Moto they're like $1 or $2.
In terms of cheap stuff on Moto, I wouldn't recommend it for playability out of the box, but Teachings is usually like $6 on Moto.
Teachings is generally sub 10 tickets on Moto. It's an extremely cheap deck.
It is probably one of the more difficult decks in the entire format to play, though.
Yeah, it's a very skill intensive deck. And also people will hate you, so
especially if you're not super fast with it.
Yeah.
People get incredibly salty about people slow playing. All right. I think do you think that was a good answer?
Yeah, of course. If you're looking to get into Pauper, great. Chances are you can downshift an existing deck you already own.
Yeah. Or pick up one scratch that's pretty cheap. I think the most expensive deck in the format is One Land Spy, and you shouldn't be playing that anyway.
One Land Spy? I guess Lotus Petal.
Lotus Petals, Simian Spirit Guides, Street Wraiths.
Don't play that deck. That deck loses to itself 60% of the time.
Like that. I believe that stock. It's one of the most expensive decks in the format, even with the exception of like oubliette inclusive mono black control.
And oubliettes are good. So
they're almost $30 now.
They're not on the reserve list. They might reprint that.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. We got one from Jason Brown on. Oh wait, hold on. This was a double. I'm sorry. Jason Brown also asked about budget lists for paper, so we kind of answered that one already.
Right. We could do
All
it
right.
again though. So there are these 5 different colors in Magic.
Moving on to the next one. A user EDH cat and then a bunch of numbers. I'm not going to read them all out. On Twitter, tweeted at us. Do you think there's a best color in Pauper / Magic in general?
It's blue.
It's blue.
It's always blue.
Although in general, it's not always the best.
In standard, well, they've really downplayed blue lately.
Mm-hmm.
But blue is historically the best in any Eternal format. And I'm not counting Modern there because Modern is a non-rotating format, not an Eternal format. Blue is the best. In Legacy, Vintage, well, I don't know. Vintage maybe not because of prison decks, but blue is overrepresented as the most powerful card in Magic's history. Ancestral Recall is the best of its cycle. Gush is the best of its cycle.
Gush is part of a super cycle.
Oh,
there's like I want to say like 15 cards between Mercadian Masks and Nemesis that all have alt casting costs that relate back to their color. Gush is probably the best besides Days.
Fire Blast.
Fire Blast is from Visions.
I know, but it's a similar thing.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, Gush and Days are extremely good cards. They have the best cantrips. They have counterspell.
All right, let me hit you with this as a side note. What's the second best color in Pauper?
Red.
Okay.
Is it not?
I was going to go with black, actually.
Oh, I was just thinking of Drake.
Oh, okay. Okay,
but,
post Drake.
Okay, black, sure. Black is historically a very strong deck.
It's either black or green.
I guess as on its own, those colors are, like, if you were to individually rank the colors and not the color pairings, that would be correct.
All right, which color pairing do you think is the best? Like, if you have to play a 2-color.
Well, I guess pre-Drake, red and blue. Post-Drake, maybe blue and black. I don't know.
I think Dimir is probably your go-to. And in terms of 3-color, I think there's only really 2 options, right? Like you've got Rugtron and Kuldotha Jeskai,
which may or may not be a real deck. The jury is still out on that one.
Yeah, actually, that's something I kind of want to sidetrack on for a moment. I'm really excited to see what the meta does. Drake goes away in 3 days. I'm super pumped.
People are going to be playing a lot of mid-range decks because they want to see if they're good.
We're back.
Yeah.
We can play the Dirtle again.
And things are, I don't know. Things will not revert just to as they were before the Drake format. You can't put the cat back in the bag, so to speak. I think largely things will go back to the way they were, but there are definitely other new cards. And I don't know if you said it last episode, but you said it to me in person. It's basically we're getting 4 sets all at once.
Yeah.
Because we suddenly have all these sets where we need to reevaluate their power level because Drake is no longer crowding out these cards.
Is Avarax playable? I don't know.
Maybe. Tune in. Find out.
Find out next week after we've had, 3 days worth of results? 4?
Yeah, Mike will definitely have an opinion by then.
I have opinions on a lot of things.
Well, nobody pays you to have them, but you do give them away for free on the show.
I do. A lot of people would prefer I didn't, but
who? No, I don't know anyone like that.
All right. Moving on. We got one last question here. And this one, crap, I don't have a name attached to this one.
My God.
I don't want to go look it up.
That person will now officially hate you forever.
Whoever this is, I'm sorry. I'll apologize on Twitter later. At Color Commentary, how do you guys respond to people who say Pauper is underpowered compared to Modern / Legacy?
Well, I mean, they're not entirely wrong. We are missing a lot of really strong cards. I would just argue that the format is just different. Power levels arrange themselves differently. When you're restricting.
Oh, heck, I remembered who this is. This is Pauper Fox.
Oh, sorry, Will.
Sorry, Will.
Well, that's also like saying, well, what do you say when people say that, Modern is less powerful than Legacy? I mean, they're not. They're just different, know? Like, I would argue that Modern is a more degenerate format, honestly. But, I would just say, to me, people only say that when they've never played Pauper, in my experience.
Yeah.
That's people who doubt the format, and the format is a lot of fun and it is very interactive and there's a lot of powerful things you can do.
One of the interesting things is the overlap between a lot of the early players in our playgroup and the legacy scene here was really high. When it started off, like, I was one of the few people who wasn't actively playing legacy. And
now we have a lot more modern players.
yeah, I think it's just the fact that it's gotten bigger with time and, more inclusive.
Yeah, so
It's a place for everyone.
I do accept the argument that the format is less powerful. I just don't think that is. I don't think that is as bad as people try to make it out to be when they're asking that question. Because like people still play draft, people still play standard. People still play legacy and vintage.
Yeah,
really the only people who can look down on other formats' power levels are vintage players. Where it's like they objectively have all the most busted spells and magic at their disposal. But I don't know if that necessarily, like, if you're into that sort of thing, great. But I just don't really think that argument really holds a lot of water. Mostly comes down to what do you enjoy.
Well, I'm going to hit you with something. For example, I own a cube. I own several cubes. But my main cube that I've spent the most time on, polishing and refining is a peasant cube. I could, go out and proxy up and slowly buy into a like powered cube if I really wanted to. I actually don't. I actually really like the power level of a commons and uncommons cube. Like, personally, for me, that's what I enjoy. And I will admit, I like grindy games. Like, the legacy deck I have halfway built is Blue-Black Tesserator. And, like, it's a grindy deck.
Yeah, but...
And so I think it's just that they more appeal to different people. Like, you're not gonna be ad nauseuming someone in this format. You're not gonna be like dredging someone out on turn 3.
But I think my issue is that people, when they say stuff like that, are thinking that it's on the same power level as like standard or limited, and it's not. It's way more powerful than those formats.
I would actually love to play a couple matches against a standard deck.
I have beaten standard decks with my affinity deck.
Which standard was this, out of curiosity?
Oath.
So Oath Dragons, and then it would have also been Cons, the first half of that block.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
I beat an Eldrazi deck.
Okay, so you beat a real deck as well.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, like, we're definitely above standard, and some pauper decks are probably on par with some modern decks.
Right. I mean, the format's just, it's more powerful than people think it is. People just think common and they assume, oh, it's bad. But it's like, oh, I don't know. Do you think Bolt and Counterspell are bad cards? No,
actually, a surprising number of the best cards that define like their sort of effects were printed at common. Like, I think Counterspell is just the best, like, counterspell that you hard cast.
Right. Force of Will obviously gets a pass, and Dace Quasi gets a pass and is a common anyway. But yeah, Counterspell is the best. You pay for it in Counterspell. It's because it is what it is. You counter the spell for 2 mana. No other Counterspell does that.
Yeah. Well, some do. They always have extra costs attached.
Oh,
or
no.
restrictions.
There's Mana Drain, which is better than Counterspell.
Oh crap!
I always forget about Mana Drain.
Yeah. Although it is, like, a lot of people have told me that in Vintage, like, because that's the only place it's playable.
Right. Because it used to be a downside because of mana burn, but now it's just objectively better because you get all the mana.
Yeah, and I've definitely heard stories from people who are like, yeah, no, I was playing Vintage, I mana drained something, and I didn't have anything to do with the mana on my turn. Like, it was just a pile of colorless mana, and I used like 2 of it. Right,
and that's a thing too.
But yes, mana drain is just strictly better counterspell.
It used to not be. Granted, it used to not be.
Yes, when it was designed, it was different.
It was supposed to be worse, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. But Pauper does have a lot of, like, defining staples in it. And I think people forget that. And I think just kind of, telling someone like, hey, we've got these cards in the format. There's actually a decent power level. And also,
just make someone play with you.
Or just, remembering that other people have different tastes.
No, everyone should have one taste. One stroke for all folks, Mike.
Let me put it this way. You're standing in the supermarket. You're looking to buy some ice cream. You want to treat yourself. It's been a long week. You go to reach for your mint chocolate chip. Someone comes up next to you and just goes, mint chocolate chip's a terrible flavor. It's super underpowered, and you should be eating pure chocolate ice cream. How do you respond to that situation? You laugh and you go away.
Yeah.
If someone
challenge them to some sort of card battle.
if someone comes up to you and questions any other taste, most people will just be like, "Yeah, sure, buddy, whatever," and move on with their life. So,
I don't know, Mike. There are people out there who think that metal is not the best genre of music. Are you saying that they could be right?
It's harsh noise.
Yeah. We have fun here, everyone.
We do. This was definitely a really fun episode, and I've wanted to do one of these for a while because I worry that sometimes we don't come across as people, just a pair of talking heads.
What? People always tell me how personable I am. No one tells. People tell me that. I'm about the show. I do know that my good friend Andy listens to this show. So since I shouted out to other people, hello Andy. When you hear this, come over to my desk. We'll talk about our weekends.
Oh, it's one of your coworkers.
Yeah, Andy, I'm gonna be looking up at you right now. Wave. Hey Andy.
Hitting him with that intro to the first Matrix thing. That's the first one, right?
I don't know.
Regardless, we're getting tangentially removed from the situation, and we're pulling up on an hour, so we're gonna wrap this one up.
Yep.
Again, color commentary brought to you by Tamago Gohan. It's just a raw egg on rice, you dummy. Eat it.
Mike, please, we're professionals.
Yes. Super professional. That's all we got time for today. Thanks to Pat's Games for giving us a place to play weekly pauper. Thanks to L for the use of his song Quantitative as our theme music. His music can be found on SoundCloud under the name LLL. Remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. We're also on iTunes and Google Play Music. If you subscribe on iTunes, be sure to leave us a written review. It helps boost the visibility of the show, and we really appreciate it.
Even if you hate it, it will actually boost us.
Yeah, as long as you write a review.
Yes.
Giving us stars is nice, though. I'm not going to discourage that, but if you got 5 seconds, leave us a review. If you have an idea for a discussion topic or a deck list you would like us to discuss, you can either use the contact form on our website or email us directly at colorcommentary@gmail.com. I'm Michael Petchek.
I'm Adrian Gonzalez.
Signing off for Color Commentary.